Hello.
Hello. Hi. How are
How
you?
are you? How are you?
I'm fabulous. Tell me.
Oh, great. I'm great too. How is your quarantine schedule going?
Quarantine. I think it's a new
Yeah.
reality. I'm getting used to it. And I'm kind of enjoying it now. I think it's
Uh,
going to be a problem to get back to work.
yeah, absolutely. Initially, it was a problem to sit at home. Now it's going to be a problem to do otherwise.
New
Yeah.
reality. Absolutely new reality.
New reality. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have been in this niche for such a long time. How did you start as an architecture interior photographer? How does your journey look like as a startup?
How did I start?
Yeah.
I've been a wanderer in the beginning. I think not because I wanted to. Primarily, I come from a very humble background. So my father never believed that the arts could feed us. And so he wanted us to get a proper job in a big company, and if possible the government services, because that was his dream. But I would not agree with it, so he wouldn't buy me a camera to begin with. uh, so I went around doing multiple things. I mean, slowly I got into the creative, because I got into advertising, then I got into copywriting, and I slowly dragged my way into photography. And it was fashion
Right.
photography to begin with. uh, I was the producer for a fashion magazine at that point in time. It was a catalog which was selling in the Middle East and Europe and US and all that. So I remember, like, I got the back door into photography because I was hiring Atul Kasbekars, uh, and the likes at that point in time, Rafiq Sayyed and all, which were like really stalwarts in the field. And while their assistants, I think, were taking it easy on the shoot, I was paying a lot of attention. But when I got the chance to become a photographer myself, after many turns, every 3 years I change the profession. It's a very weird thing,
Yeah.
but it's not true for many people. When I got the chance, I think I was grounded, because I had seen these masters at work. I had seen how it really, what they're discussing behind the scene, what is the issues that matter to them. And I think I just picked it up, and I never assisted anybody to start with. So my journey was a little slow, because I had to make a mistake, then learn from it, and then never repeat it again. So it took a little longer,
Mm.
but I'm glad, because what I discovered in that journey was also something that is still with me. It was my style. It is the
Yeah.
way I looked at it, and it paid off. It paid off.
Yeah. That's how we identify our style, how we work, and it's all about taking baby steps, learning from those mistakes, and keep moving forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't be afraid
Absolutely.
to make a mistake. That's, I think,
Yeah.
one of the key learnings. Don't be
Yes.
afraid.
Absolutely.
At least in the first 5 years of your career or your starting point, just don't be afraid, because once you get cracking, then I think it's good.
Right. So, how would you say that architecture and interior photography is different from other forms of photography?
Architecture. Okay, there is this. There are three, four concepts in photography primarily. If you break it down, one is capturing the moment. So decisive moment. It could be like the wedding, anything where people are involved, or even things are involved, but it is decisive moment. You miss the moment, it's over. So that's one type of photography. The attitude you require to be in that particular field is very different. So those moments happen in spurts. You have to be very sharp. You have to be very quick. And after it's over, it's over. So do they pay attention to nitty gritty, like, oh, that flower is not looking good, that color sari is not nice? No, there is no time for it. You just go for it, and it's a moment that matters. So what they capture is a slice in time. I mean, and they freeze it. What do? We have all the time in the world. Okay, so we can move the chair, we can move the sofa, we can change the frame, I mean, whatever you like. But what governs us is our sense of aesthetics. So if the aesthetics is not strong enough, you can't just walk in there and take a shot and walk away. You might get a picture, yes, but nobody will want to see it. So to be very honest, we shoot much larger canvases than a wedding photographer does, or maybe a food photographer does, or a product photographer does. Even a fashion photographer, they have a 6x2 canvas which they normally work with. our canvases are always like a full room. So we start there and then we go to a full building or maybe a community or a row of bungalows. So we have a larger canvas to play with. Our sense of aesthetics slightly different. Mostly it's inanimate objects. So once you place it, it stays there. It won't go away. So there are a lot of differences. And actually, if you don't emotionally connect with it or feel for it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of students are now looking at other areas of architecture and interior design other than designing spaces. And architecture photography is a very popular question now. And if somebody is passionate about architecture photography and they want to pursue their career in architecture photography, what are some essential skills that they need to have to be able to start? And how do they learn to express the soul of a space through the lens?
First of all, and there's a major misconception that the architectural photography business or the architectural photography profession is kind of easy. I mean, it's a serious misconception. I can't stress enough because we have kids who come in here and within a week they are discussing between themselves. तो छुट्टी उट्टी नहीं होता है क्या मतलब पूरा दिन काम करना पड़ता है सुबह सनराइज क्या जरूरत है I mean, why do you have to do sunrise and sunset? I mean, इसके लिए wait क्यों कर रहे हैं? We'll finish and go home. So now that's the difference between the attitude that you come in with and then you only wait for sunrise, sunsets and for the right time. So without patience, you do not even enter this business. So if you think that, okay, I'm going to make a quick run of this and get away with it, no, forget it. What they have to do to begin with is first look at their own pictures, the pictures that they take with their mobile. I don't think there's a single soul who calls or thinks of themselves as a photographer doesn't have a mobile and do not take pictures. Look at your pictures. If your pictures have a lot of people and smiling faces and food and eating and all that, stay away from architecture. If your pictures have a lot of architectural detail, you're looking at buildings, you're looking at, more, I would say, larger frames, then call us. I think they have a little more inclination. I mean, it starts from your soul. If it's right within you. If I enter a space and I can't keep quiet and watch things, and I need somebody to chat with, I need somebody to talk to, I need somebody to talk to me all the time, the furnitures don't talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
The architecture speaks to you, but you have to listen with your mouth shut. So there are a lot of things that are there behind that person who stands with the camera there. And people are enamored by, okay, मैं fashion नहीं कर सकता हूँ, तो मैं architecture शुरू कर लेता हूँ. The second major problem I feel is that they always believe, okay, wedding photography seasonal है, तो उसके बाद हम architecture कर लेंगे. I mean, they all are there in the marketplace. We do not deny them any space because that's the way it is. You're good at something, you're good at something. But I believe if you're a youngster and you want to get into architecture photography or any kind of photography, I mean, it's just like irrespective. Clarify your thoughts. Really important to clarify your thoughts. I mean, you cannot have a page which has fashion, which has glamour, which has street photography, food photography, everything. I mean, what does a client look for? I mean, if I have to look at your profile and I have to decide on a photographer who can work with us, what do you think I will look at when I look at your page? I mean, you got selfies there and you got... So clarify your thoughts. First of all, choose what you really want to do. Then enter the journey. And once you enter the journey...
Yeah, it's about picking a particular niche. Yeah.
There is no two ways about it. I mean, if you can't clarify your thoughts, photography is all about clarifying your subject. So if you're not in the position to clarify things, I mean, if a photographer doesn't... If I take a picture and you are not able to understand what I'm taking a picture of, then I think I'm a bad photographer to begin with. So you first clarify your thought, then you clarify what's in your frame. And when people see that, I think they will always find out somebody who's doing really well in that.
Yeah. So how does working in this niche feel like? I mean to ask, what is it one thing that you absolutely love about this niche? That you're a fan of? Okay, I'm so glad that I'm in this niche, I'm working as a photographer.
The first thing is that no site comes home, so you have to go to the site. So
traveling.
You have to travel. So that is the first thing. Secondly, I don't have to meet the same architects before 6 months.
Okay. All right.
So the whole scene and the bunch of people, they are out of your paying for 3 to 6 months. And then you meet them
Great.
again, and then it's like, oh my God, where were you all this time? Such a nice thing, and how's life and everything. So it's always fresh. And I don't think so. There are two sites which are absolutely the same. They might be similar. I mean, after seeing so much work, I think there is a lot of similarity in the kind of work that's happening, but they are not the same. The equations are different. The client is different. The client who owns the house is different. So all of a sudden, you are in a different dynamic, and the discussions are different. The whole scene is different. So every day, it's a fresh new start. You get up, you go there, you see, and you start delivering. That's I think one of the most beautiful things about this profession. Every day, something new. You're
Right.
never repeating the same thing again. And even if you go back to the same site, by chance, there are times, it's still not the same.
That's great. That's great. So I have a lot of practicing architects and interior designers that I create content for on this platform, and I keep telling them that once you have established yourself as a firm, it's time to consult an architecture photographer, get your work documented, and then put it on your website. You know, it gives like a lot of brand value to your firm. So I want to ask you the same question. Hearing directly from the expert, how important is it for firms to hire architecture photographers to document their work?
Okay, let's put it a little more logically. Let's rationalize the idea. You've done a site somewhere. The site is not moving. The site is not going to show itself. So you have to show the site. If you haven't shown me a picture of your work, you probably haven't worked. Correct? In today's world, if I Google your name and I do not see a site picture, which means you haven't done anything. Now, you can explain your site to me in how many ever words you like. It is not the same as seeing a picture and then taking an opinion on that. So these are the two bases. First, your site is not going to speak about itself. And the only way you can take the site to somebody's home, their mobile, their pages or whatever else is through pictures. So be it an interior architecture photographer or be it yourself. Even if I have a blurred picture of a site of yours and you put it up on your page, I know that you've done that job. You claim that project. It is so important for you to today claim projects that I've done this job. नहीं मैंने बहुत काम किया. I've done a lot of work. You know, it's a beautiful work I've done. I've done it here. I've done it there. I mean, 5 minutes later I'll say, I must be faking. And if I show you 5 pictures, I don't have to ask you. You don't have to tell me anything. I mean, we know that okay, this work got done. So other than documenting finished projects, for me, I think it's also very important to have this culture of documenting work in progress. You cannot go back and shoot, you know, how the site was or how the site. I mean, people today do.
The process, yeah.
It's such a big hurry to just go and finish the job, get the job done, and then they say, the site was so terrible. It was such a bad site. There was this or not there. That was not there. Again, it's words. I mean, somewhere that culture of going and being a clear person who documents their work has to become a part of your day-to-day existence. And documenting it right so that, the larger audience looks at it with better aesthetics, I mean, is going to put you into another level. And if I have to mention a name today, I say like, okay, Jignesh so-and-so, for example. The first thing that somebody will do is look at their Instagram page. They'll Google them first. Today, first Instagram, then they will go to Google. And if you don't see anything of that person's work, him having coconut water, him having pani puri, doesn't cut ice. So it's work related, it's business. And I think to take it seriously is the need of the hour. We are a little slow in this. I mean, even our documentation is pretty haphazard. ये side shoot कर लेते हैं, ये side नहीं कर लेते हैं. When I look at some of the top architects that I know of, some of the great names that you know of, you've only known them as great because of their work. So if you don't put it out there, you are going to kill it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an interesting question from the audience. How is interior photography different from architecture photography? And are there any certain things that we overlook in architecture photography that are very important part of documenting an interior space?
Difference between architecture and interiors. Okay, so primarily it is the scale. It is what you see. Architecture is primarily shot with available light, with sunlight. So you do not rush into architectural photography. You learn where the sun is moving. You understand the sun path and then take your call. So there are, I know people who just go at any given point in time, just go and shoot the building and walk away. They don't last long. And the reason is because the sun is one thing that can make the building look really beautiful or can even destroy the little aesthetics that are there. So if you get time to stand and stare at the building during the day, at different times of the day, you really know when the building looks really beautiful, when the shadows are playing out, etc., etc. Whereas in interiors, you pretty much are using ambient light or whatever light is coming from the window, which is controlled anyway. So you can shoot interiors anytime. And if you are a photographer like we do, the way we work, we would work with the light that is coming from the window as well as ambient light. So you cannot go against the light. So there are some pictures it's not possible to take in the afternoons. You would rather want that room to look more cozy, more inviting than a harsh light window on the window which is destroying it. So both of them require patience, but one of them has a lot to do with sunlight. And another major thing about interior photography is you can move and shift things. You can create aesthetics there. You know, a little flower, a little artwork completely changes the way that space looks. How you documented what angle you choose is like, I think, fundamental. But beyond that, you can even correct the frame. You can make things perfect. In architecture, कौन हिलाएगा building को? There are so many things in architecture. It's like Ram Bharose. The gate is not done. The wall is not done. There is a wrong car parked. We don't know where the keys are. There is a tree which is dried up. There is somebody in the back who is hanging clothes which are not matching with the building colors. You have 150 issues, but all Photoshop, hai na? So that's the end of the story. So these are the fundamental differences.
Right. Another interesting question is, what kind of brief do you get from the architect or designer before you start the shoot?
What kind of?
Brief do you get? Brief. Like architects get design brief from clients. Do you get some kind of brief from the architect or designer?
Yeah, I'll give you the funny ones. I want this picture. I want the pictures to be so good that I win an award. I want
Okay.
the pictures. I want the pictures to go on the cover of the best magazine. So, other than that, Sabi, whatever it is, make it look good. Now, these things will go on. You know, everybody wants their pictures to be the best in the world. Now, if I have to put this into perspective from an architectural photographer's point of view, first thing, the same photographer, the same camera, the same lens, the same everything. What is changing is the content and the light conditions
Right.
with the content. So to some
Right.
extent, if you do not give me content, which is like decently good, where do we start? So I know of a situation where somebody told me that you shoot very well for these guys. Why don't you shoot the same way for us? Absolutely negating the point that look at the content. Am I doing something different? Am I using the wrong hand to shoot the picture? No, it's the same lens. So
Right.
the
Absolutely.
problem is, I think, the content. So what do they want me to do is shoot the best, which I would always want to do. And but I think let's start with what you offer me. If I have to get into a site and start working on setting up everything, cleaning up everything, we are losing precious time. So if you give me a good site, I think, and you do not call me on the site because you don't know me or haven't seen my work. You're spending money, so you're calling me after looking at what we have done.
Right.
And if you've been doing this for the last so many years, ask yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's just pick a few other interesting questions that we got. Is your holistic approach in architecture photography, what are the things you will include in it?
Come again. I think it's interesting. This
Uh,
is by Rajiv.
no, not Rajiv. This is Deshi I something.
Okay.
If in the holistic approach in architecture photography, what are the things you will include in it?
Include in it. Okay. So for architectural photography, interior photography are different. Now, I want to really clarify whether we are discussing interior or architecture. In architecture, it's all about giving the photographer enough time to kind of get the right light conditions. Either you see it and then you tell the architectural photographer that these are the times in which the light looks like this. So you do the homework. Or else you let them spend time with the project and then see it and discover it and then take the pictures. So there are two ways to do it. But at the same time, if you do not clean up the mess that is a mess, any which ways, you cannot expect things to happen on the time of the shoot or the day of the shoot. So architecture is like, if I have to put glass, for example, facade glass, it cannot be done on the day of the shoot. It has to be done almost 2 days before. So there are things that are there, oh, baad mein dekh lenge, it never happens. So you have to visit your site beforehand. You have to do those little things that you do not like. More importantly, that you do not like, you do not agree with it. There are pots and there are things lying around in the front. There are like half filled up debris lying around there. Remove it. There are wires hanging unnecessarily. You can always organize it. So if you manage that much, you are already offering a decently good site for the photographer to take it forward. Now, it is his skill set, it is the light conditions, everything else that will take it further. Interiors, a lot of things. I mean, right from props, I mean, simple props. You give me just a bed without the right bed cover on it. No matter how good your wall is, the picture is going to look terrible. Because the bed forms almost 3/4 of the frame to begin with. So how do you control all that? So you cannot miss out on small things. And secondly, it's all about lifestyle. If you have the wrong thing, like a beautiful luxury home with plastic flowers lying in front, blue color flowers. I mean, you can do what the hell you want. Not playing it.
Absolutely.
And styling is one area which I think we are missing out terribly on. We always stand on the side with the tripod on, the camera on, live view on, and say, now what to do? And that question, I think, you're killing creative time. It's not about killing creative. You get mental fatigue after a point in time when you're watching the same thing again and again. As you go forward and you look at the set and it looks nice the way it is, you get to react to remove or move things to make it better. But you're starting from zero. By the time you reach nice, you're like, let's take the picture, let's go. We have so many other areas to cover. It doesn't work for the architect or the designer as much as it probably is a bad thing for the photographer.
Right. Do you think architecture photography should be a part of academics? People should know the basics of it during the degrees.
Yeah, I think we will have a lot more architectural photographers than architects then. So it should be. I think they should definitely be involved in understanding the fundamentals of photography, because I have enough senior architects who tell me today, you shoot the picture now, finish it. Let's go home. I mean, that thing comes from the fact that we do not understand light. And now when they do not understand light and they force me to take a picture at the wrong time because they want to finish it and go home, I think it defeats the purpose of calling anybody. I mean, they could have taken it themselves.
Absolutely.
Why do I have to waste my time? The second thing that they would ask me is, why do we have to wait for the evening light? Why morning light is important? I mean, if you take a couple of pictures in your lifetime, you will realize that. Going against the light, keep the windows open, go against the light. Again, if they have done a few pictures, even on their mobile, they would know that that stuff doesn't work. But other than that, I think if you ever assist a photographer for, say, for example, 3 to 6 months, the scale of work that at which my firm does today, we do about 25 to 30 shoots in a month, average. So now if somebody walks through 25 sites in a month, any student, just walk through 25 different pieces of work, I think their education is far more worth it than going to college for the whole year. And if they're sensitive, they are kind of like open-minded about things, they will also understand. But many of them want to do photography only, which is like...
Right. I think the little details that we should take care of, that bring perfection inside of a frame that people don't understand. Attending to those little details is important. Yeah.
We have seen this over time. When we did the first shoot with a particular firm, they didn't have bed sheets also. So we went to the market. We went and bought white bed sheets because that's safe. No, you can use it over 3 rooms. Or 4 rooms.
Right.
So we bought white bedsheet and did all the pictures and all white bed sheets and white bed covers or whatever it is, and it's done. The second time they realize, yeah, that's a stupidity. We should do something. So then they put some color in it and they try to match it. It also kind of falls flat because now the pillows are not falling sitting right. One is a thick pillow, one is a thin pillow, one is fluffed, one is not fluffed. So you anyway do that shoot because you don't have time for it.
Yeah,
And if they had hired a stylist, it would have been very different. But now we are the stylist and everything. So like I'm there on the day of the shoot. And on the third side, we've discovered that now they started looking at other pictures. They started seeing other pictures. Say, oh, हमारे पास pro नहीं है, हमारे पास runner नहीं है. Oh, I need a small plant. And then they actually start playing the game. So I give them 4 to 5 shoots for them to take themselves seriously. And all the youngsters who shot with us, in the last 3-4 years, today when they're delivering a site for a shoot, I mean, I'm quite surprised. I smile, I'm amused because so many small things are taken care of. And it's all because they were assisting me when they were working with a firm. They had come for the shoot when they were working in that firm. So when they call me for a shoot, those little things are sorted out. And if it is not,
right. That's great. What kind of software do you use for editing part of the photographs?
We have little choice now because it's all about Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. These are the two primary softwares in which we have to work. There was Aperture earlier from Apple, which I used to use for the longest time. Then they discontinued it, and because Lightroom is the same as Aperture, so it was an easy shift for us to do that. But today it's all about Lightroom CC, and so we have to subscribe to them for as many computers we have, and that's the software to know. Right. If there is anybody who knows these softwares, please call me.
I know these softwares.
Come, call me.
Somebody is asking which one was your challenging project?
Challenging
project, yeah. This is the most popular question I've had in all the live sessions I've done so far.
I will answer it in 2 parts. First, every site that is not set up and not ready is challenging. So that's like basic. I mean, it does not matter who the designer is. If it is not set up and ready, then we are going to waste time trying to figure out things and, work through a way. Some of them turn out really beautiful. Actually, you wouldn't know the difference. You wouldn't know the other way. If it was set before, what would have happened? So that is one challenge. The second one, I think the most challenging project I've shot for is, there is a project by Bhavna Jacob. She did a studio apartment in Bandra, which was so tiny, which had a bedroom kind of in the closet, and there was a bar and kitchen and a pantry and everything in a little tiny space, 250 square feet, 300 square feet, I think something like that. And there was no place for me to stand for the tripod, and we still got pictures. And if you take one picture, it's over. Like if you take one picture from here, the project is over. But I had to shoot pictures which are tighter so that we do not make it look like one single space. I mean, it shows you only this space at this shot, that space in the other. And that was quite tiring because I was under the table, over the window ledge. And to me, that was challenging to try and find those very, very, very narrow frames without losing aesthetics and all that. It had to be complete. I think that was so far my most challenging project. It was done way, way back. One of the earliest projects I did, and I loved Bhavna for it.
Right. Should we include humans in architecture photography other than showing scale and aliveness in a space?
Human beings have a major plus point. Like if there is a person who is losing power, lockdown, seriously.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So human beings have either a very positive impact or a negative impact on in the frame. So take for example, I show you a nice, beautiful bedroom, and I put one woman sitting on the chair on the right. Almost 80% of the comments will be for the woman. How pretty she is, what she is wearing, how her makeup is, where do you get the earring from? Everything except what the project was. And we have done this experiment. I've done this and I've put it on online, and I've got responses and saying like, ask her where she got her pink dress from. So, wow. So the architect can sometimes, or the designer can lose the focus on their work if they are getting distractions involved in the picture. If your project is not really good, get a belly dancer. I mean, you will get a lot of likes. But is it for the project? Question mark. Architecture, slightly different. If your architecture is not easily readable, like for example, you have a cantilevered, you know, thing coming out somewhere, you cannot make out how wide it is or how long it is unless and until there is something to scale with. So if there is a tree there, there is a bench there, it does the job. But using a human figure which is subtle, normally we have blurs in that, or the model wears black or wears only one color. So we, because after you see the concrete wall and all that, you look at that human being there, you know that this is a livable space, and I think it has a lot of value. Too many questions, is it?
Yeah, too many questions. Is it necessary to have props every time to make pictures look good?
No. If your design is beautifully resolved, for example, if the elements that in the design are beautifully resolved, then there is no need of any prop. But what does props do? They give you a proof of life. If I put furniture together without anything, it looks like a showroom. It's like a display of furniture. So how do I make sense of it with a human in a human context? So by putting, for example, if I put a camera on the side table there, it tells you this house belongs to a photographer or somebody whose photography is a hobby. If I put an easel and a little painting there, it tells you it's an artist's home. If there is a lot of books, it tells you that this person is slightly intellectual, reads. So there are things that can define the function, but at the same time also speak about the owner or for whom you have designed the space. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But otherwise, if your design is good, sorry, there's no need of any props. But beds need bed cover, okay?
That is very important. Bed covers, throws, linens, and all those pillows
So it can be
kept
beautiful,
properly.
it can be beautifully finished, it can be subtle colors, it can be something that doesn't overpower the overall space. And those are decisions which the designer has to take. As photographers, I think we would step back a bit and tell them, show me what you want to show from here. So I know architects who do not like flowers, for example. Now, I wouldn't want to force flowers on that site. I mean, absolutely, I would remove it if I once I know that this person has a design aesthetic that does not include flowers. I would move it out.
Right. Which lens is best to shoot for beginners, not for established photographers?
There is nothing called as a beginner's lens. There is always a good lens or a bad lens. The right lens or the wrong
Right.
lens. There is nothing for beginners or for senior. So in interior architecture, you normally end up with a wide angle lens because you normally have to take a larger scope. So it has to be a wide angle lens. So whichever that if you take Nikon, then you have your Nikon wide angle lenses. If you take Canon, you have your Canon wide angle lenses. So you have to stick to a wide angle lens if you ever want to do interior architecture photography. There are people who do not want to invest into that lens, want to always keep trying with a 50 mm. They will take bits and pieces. They'll never be able to capture the whole scenario. So if you're serious about interior architecture, you have to invest into a wide angle lens.
Right, 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 right.
Hi to all my friends out there.
When there is no place to stand while capturing architecture, how do you decide your camera angle and capture it without using drone?
Now, this is architectural photography. There is no place to capture.
Yeah.
I would believe that. So, architecture photography has benefited a lot with the drone. I mean, there is no two ways about it. No photographer can give you that angle unless and until there is a point of elevation somewhere further down. We have to depend on what is the human scale and height, and we can at best go up on a ladder, go up on a table, whatever it is. With the drone, you literally control the whole range. I mean, you can come to a point where the building looks absolutely perfect perspectively. So there is no two ways about disputing that. But drones also have a certain quality that they offer. The camera we offer is 50 megapixels, for example, so you can blow it up. You can take parts out of it. I mean, there are a lot of advantages to it. Shooting in a raw format as well. The drones come with a certain fixed point. I mean, you have to agree with it. It's brilliant for video. Drones are brilliant for video. I mean, I would suggest that that's like one of the best things that you can do with a drone. Uh, Otherwise, you have to do your research. I mean, when you're building an architectural structure anywhere, you have time, right? You have like a year, if not 2 years. So whenever you go to the site, you walk around it a bit. I mean, they do. Most architects do. Every time you walk around, take pictures from different points. These are your reference points, and you also take it different seasons because the sun changes. In the winter it is more on the north, on the south, and then it goes to the north. So you have to take pictures. You will realize. You yourself will realize. So when the photographer comes on board, he doesn't have to spend 2 days to learn the project. You show him this whole bunch of pictures taken in September, taken in October, taken in December, and this is how the light looks. This is how the shadows fall at this time at 4 in the evening, at 2 in the afternoon. You are going to make sure that the shoot is a lot more fun, less stress, and everybody is happy because you have time to sit and joke around.
Right. Yeah. Could you elaborate on the initial interaction between the architect and the photographer that sets the tone?
If you are an established photographer, the tone is set by what do you want to do first. If you are a young photographer, absolutely young, you will be directed as to what you should do. So, and also it's how senior the architect is. There are two types of people in this business. One is who calls a professional and believes that the professional should deliver what they are supposed to deliver. And the other one is that, okay, I want these things, you just follow my instructions. So it depends who you've got. And if you've got the follow my instruction kind of things, you be the cook. I mean, if he says dal banao without kotmir, mat dalo kotmir. No problem. But if he calls you because you're a chef and you're charging like a chef, so then you sit and discuss with him because it is his project. He needs to live with the pictures far more than you have to. You're shooting the pictures and you're going home and you're shooting the next project. He has to live with this picture, sell the project, and make something more out of it. So you listen to him, you chat with him, and you go with your instincts. I think there's always instincts is good. Understand the light conditions, and then go for a schedule. Like you have to plan your schedule. No? If you're shooting a 4 BHK, 5 BHK in a day, you can't be sitting in one room the whole day. Nor can you,
Right.
So you need to know what is good in the evening, what's good in the afternoon. It takes a couple of years to really understand the light conditions and how it helps and how it doesn't help. So you will make mistakes. Be happy about it.
Of course, of course. Do you use lighting, your own lighting for interior photography, or do you just use available lighting for interior photography?
I think PHX as a firm believes in shooting in the light condition that it existed. So close to reality is one of I think the founding principles. You shoot a project as close to reality as possible. So to a large extent, if an architect has spent time, got consultants in, and has designed a project with lighting in a certain way, and I'm going to use flash in that space, I'm destroying their design.
Right.
Some designers are very, very particular. I mean, at least the ones I work with, they are also very particular about their shadow regions. They want shadows there. They don't want that to be lit up. That's like the corner space. So the focus is on this thing. They have thought about it. They have worked very hard to get that kind of look. And I'm going to go there because I do not understand light conditions or I cannot understand color temperatures here. I don't know how to balance it. I will go use my flash, get my job done in half the time. I think it's very wrong. But there are some people who miss their light completely. They completely lost it on the lighting plot. They've got the lights in the wrong place or the wrong lights. So there are blue lights, green lights, pink lights. Then as a photographer, I would suggest listen, let's switch off those lights and go with purely natural light. Whatever is happening during the day. So those shoots cannot happen in the night. They cannot happen even late evening. They have to be done when the sunlight is in. So some amount of feedback, some amount of pictures that we get on WhatsApp saying this is how the site looks tells us, okay, let's go early. let's use daylight. So let's start early when the sun rises and let's take it. But everybody likes the night picture, so. But I do not use light at all. And I used to do earlier just to fill up certain dark areas where they have missed lighting. For example, there should have been a light here. They missed it. Then we kind of fill it up. But now the lights we have, like for example, the photographers have the strobe lights and all that, have a totally different color temperature. So if I use any light which is not matching the room ambient color temperature, it's going to look like another block there of yellow light or white light, whatever it is. So it is not advisable. I mean, it's not advised for my firm at least to use any artificial light. We stick to what is really there. So that's why a mix of daylight and artificial light is the right answer.
Right. Which camera model would you recommend for a beginner photographer?
Yeah, iPhone is also good. The point is about taking good pictures. I mean, if you're taking good pictures, most of the pictures on my Instagram feed are taken on the phone. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that the tool really doesn't matter. You can move forward, back, and you can take a picture. Now, unless and until I have a good camera, a good lens, I'm not going to start taking pictures. You're not starting. You have a startup problem. So get going. Whatever tools you have. I mean, if you have seen Ira is my partner in my firm.
Right.
She's also an architect, and she and I shoot the same site sometimes together. Earlier, we used to shoot always together. Her Instagram feed shows you pictures which are taken purely with the mobile and the details that she captures. That tells me that this person is absolutely inclined towards details, looks at interior architecture more artistically. That is better than, only having a big camera and a big lens and shooting. I think don't wait for the camera, don't wait for the lens. Start shooting. If you think you're really going somewhere with it, then invest. Then invest into the right tools. I mean, invest into a full frame camera, invest into a good lens, and then put your heart into it. I mean, focus. That's it.
Right, absolutely. We have a lot more questions. I'm just going to take the last one. How do you define a good picture?
Okay, that's a big one. So we as photographers, we have what is called as aesthetics. So the aesthetics include color, line, emphasis, balance, symmetry, asymmetry. There are so many of them. So there is movement in the picture. So there are some pictures where you look at the picture from a certain point. You look at from left to right or right to left, whatever it is. Why? Because there is movement in the picture. The vision or the place that you captured has been designed in such a way that your eye moves. It's not focused on just one thing. In some places, it is about what it is focused on. There is a beautiful painting. You start with the painting and then you disperse all the way around. There are other places, it's all about the color. So you have a blue wall, you have an accent wall. So now architects, interior designers also do the same thing. They also follow a certain level of aesthetic. So they have a line, they want to keep the line going in the same way. So wherever 3 or 4 aesthetics come together, so be it line, be it symmetry, and be it color, if 3 of them came together, that picture is definitely good looking, irrespective. Now, if the picture that we have taken also fulfills the idea of design or the concept of design that the architect intended, I think you have got a brilliant picture. For me, that is a brilliant picture, which has served the purpose, that has also captured enough amount of aesthetics. Now, this is something that if you are conscious, you start realizing it. So for a young photographer, it's about capturing, I saw the entire thing. I got the left, I've got the right, I've seen the full door, I'm seeing the full window, I've got everything. Now for him or her, that is brilliant. And they're happy just they got the whole thing. But as you go in that thing, is that a good picture is the first question that comes into your consciousness. And the answer is always, no, let's avoid this, let's include that. So, including a bit of a chair and all that happens to be the place where you put movement into the picture. It is subtle. Most people don't read it. I mean, their subconscious reads the picture, but they don't even read it. But for you as a professional, I think it matters.
Right. Right, right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for so many amazing insights for so many of us. It was such a
Welcome.
great session.
Welcome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in this live session. And thank you, Sebastian, for sharing so many tips and insights with us. Thank you so much.
Stay quarantined.
Bye
Stay
bye.
happy.
Yeah, same to you.
Bye. Bye.
Same to you. Bye. Bye. Bye.